Good afternoon, everybody. The Music Fan is back, bringing smiles to the faces, knowledge to the people, and most importantly, music to the masses. Now, apologies for not being around as much as I wanted to last week. I've been dealing with a couple of different things at home, at work, just in my social life and my personal life that I didn't have the time that I wanted to put out these videos for you. But I do have a little bit of a update of what's going to happen for at least the end of this year and then the beginning of next year. So real quickly, for this particular week, I have one video, which is this one, that I'll be putting out before doing another set of 2 RU-ins and 1 digging through discography, the third part of it. So that will be this week. And then next week, I'll also be putting out 2 more RU-ins in the last installment of Digging Through Discographies with Mumford & Sons. That should put me to the end of the year. And then from there, we'll see what happens. I basically, from there, want to be finalizing my top 50 list, which I'll be doing at the end of January. I know that's a long time away, but the reason for me is that I want to be able to listen to all the aggregates that are out there. You know, instead of looking to the top 50 that I usually do for Rolling Stones, this time I found a website called Album of the Year, which is really cool if you are into this type of stuff. It basically takes all the top 50 polls that they put out there and makes it into an aggregate, so you see who everyone claims is the best. And from there, I'm listening to that instead of the Rolling Stone one, because that's just one person, rather than I want to be able to hear what the most of the music critics out there agree is the top 50, and then I can make my own. So from now, I want to say that the last week of January, so that way we get into right before the Grammys, I'm going to be putting out my top 50 list. But that might change, who knows. In the meantime, from there, I may start another digging through discography. I might throw out a couple of RU-ins, but basically it's going to be getting myself ready for my top 50 list. And hopefully I'll have a guest on there. We don't know. But that's basically what my plan is. I might throw out a couple of cover songs when I feel like I have the time. But with trying to apply for new jobs and getting ready for a couple other things, and with the holidays, I'm trying to limit myself to what I need to get done. So, anyways, we are back with another RU-in. I'm starting the timer, and here we go. So, today we are talking about Young the Giant's newest album entitled Mirror Master. If you don't know who Young the Giant is, it is an alternative rock / indie pop band from Irvine, California. Members include Samir Gadia on lead vocals, percussion, keyboards, and guitar, Jacob Tilley on guitar, synthesizers, and mellotron, Eric Kanata on guitar, vocals, and keyboards, Payam Dutsadeh, hopefully I got that right, on bass guitar, synthesizers, and vocals, and Francois Comtos on drums, percussions, and vocals. The previous albums include Young the Giant in 2010, Mind Over Matter in 2014, and Home of the Strange in 2016. Now, you may have heard of this band before on some of their hit singles, being Cough Syrup, or My Body, or even from last album, Silver Tongue, or Something to Believe In. I personally really like this band. I remember hearing their first album when it came out. It didn't stick to me the way that some of the other albums of 2010 did, but I liked where they were going from there. I really like Samir's vocals. Personally, I think he's one of the most underrated vocalists in the game today. So I basically have almost rounded out my quartet of underrated people, if you will. We've gone Samir as the underrated vocalist, Mark Tremonti as the underrated guitarist, probably I would say the DeLeo brother from Stone Temple Pilots, Robert DeLeo, as the underrated bassist, drummer, still not sure. Let's rule that one out for a little bit. But anyways, so I didn't listen to Mind Over Matter, but I have heard some of the songs on there, and Mind Over Matter itself is a phenomenal song. I really love the power in Samir's voice, and you hear it through a lot of these albums. I think Home of the Strange was a fantastic album, very diverse in sound, with songs like Silver Tongue, or Something to Believe In, or America, with a lot of power, but a lot of building on a lot of songs. But you also get some of these more subtle or softer songs like Titus Was Born that has some great building to it as well. I also love the tongue-in-cheek nature of Mr. Know-It-All. There's just so many great songs on this album that it got into my top 50 list. And at first, I wasn't sure about it because I was like, why would I put an indie pop album on here? It felt wrong to do it and to put it so high as where I did. But over time, I listened to it more and more, and I keep hearing a lot of the songs on there, and I think a lot of those songs are phenomenal. I think the mixture of power that they use with also the subtlety where Samir is able to use his beautiful falsetto, I think shows for a very diverse album and one that I go back to on occasion. So when I heard that they were putting out a new album, I was really excited, and I listened to the teaser track Superposition and Simplify. I thought Superposition was a beautiful song, and in contrast, Simplify has that power, but not as powerful as some of their other singles. So I was a little bit on the fence, but took a listen, and here's my thoughts. So for me, the biggest takeaway is that there isn't as many powerful songs on this album. Sure, you get Simplify that has a lot of power in there, but he also uses his falsetto parts of that song. It's a very straightforward song with guitar, but it does have these tinges of like psychedelic in there, at least in the vocals to me. It's pretty straightforward in the song, and it's a fun song with a nice message. Mirror Master, the last song, is also one of these ones that has power, kind of like being the closer like Home of the Strange on the previous album, but this particular one to me doesn't do as much as that closer, and you'll see why I think this is weird in a minute. Other than that particular one, I would say the other song that kind of has that power in it is Tightrope, which has this awesome bass line, and it's really funky. It's a fun song overall in the scheme of this album. But the big thing that you get to take away from is that a lot of these songs fail to reach that power. It's a little bit more beautiful. It's a little bit more simplistic. It's a little bit more lo-fi. And a lot of these songs uses Samir's falsetto rather than his over-the-top amazing chest voice. Now, if it's because they were looking for a particular sound, not sure, or if it's because he wasn't able to hit those, I don't know. But a lot of this album has that more subtle, softer feel. And for the most part, it does work. My favorite song on the album being the first song, Superposition. It's a beautiful song with a very simplistic arrangement, having a lot of just like backbeat drum and a little bit of guitar, and I think a little bit of sitar as well. I can't really tell. But also, there's a little bit of just droning. And then at the bridge, you got this flowing piano chords. But other than that, it's a very simplistic arrangement, and it gives room for Samir's vocals. Talking about the push and pull of love that we have, almost to the point of fate, where you see somebody, you love somebody, and it's fate. You're bound by gravity, by pull, and all that stuff. And it's talking about, I like you, and I want you to want me. Why don't we rely on chemistry? It's a nice message song. I personally don't really like the bridge as much, but overall, fantastic way of opening the album. And then you get another one of my favorites being You and I, one of the last songs on the album. It's another beautiful song with beautiful piano, very simple arrangement, but again gives room for these lyrics talking about as people get older in relationships that they're staying together because they want to rather than because they need to. I'll stay if you stay. I think because of that message and because of the melody, it works very well. And again, is one that, even though it's more simplistic, works because of that simplicity. And even Call Me Back, I think that one still works, even though the lyrics themselves are very boring and basically non-existent. It's talking about somebody who is waiting by the phone for their loved one to call back because either they missed them or they did something wrong and they want to reach out to them. The lyrics themselves are not much to sniff at, but I think the arrangement itself is very lo-fi, very interesting, even though it's very simplistic and kind of on the lines of like a little bit just dronish. But I think it works for the most part. I would say from there, you get to a point where the songs are nice, but that's it. I think they try to add more energy than they should be on certain songs, and it just doesn't really work for me. So, like, for example, Brother's Keeper, a nice song with some nice drumming in there and a couple color changes, but I think that particular song needed a little bit more energy than what they were trying to give out, especially on the chorus. I like his falsetto, but I don't think it works the way that it wants to. It kind of leaves it a little bit boring, though I think the color changes and the drum work give it enough to stand out a little bit more than some of these other tracks. Some of these don't work as well. For example, Panoramic Girl and also Glory are one of these, or two of these ones that kind of just exist to me. I think that they're all right. They're simplistic. They have these beautiful touches. There's some beautiful work, especially in Glory with some string ideas. But both of them leave me the same way, where it's like, okay, it was nice, but it doesn't bring much to the table. Heat of the Summer is another one that has a little bit more energy, but I think it's a little bit too simplistic and falls on the patterns of some of these other indie pop, indie rock bands that it just doesn't stand out to me. The only one that still kind of stands out a little bit more is Oblivion. It's a little bit different from all the other ones. It doesn't necessarily have that energy, but it also isn't like really, really beautiful. What it does, it builds very well and comes to this crescendo with these rolling drum ideas and a lot of powerful guitar. And it's a slow churning one at the beginning, but I think the payoff is really nice. The beginning of this album is actually pretty good, though my biggest problem being that your 4 singles are the first 4 songs on the album, and to me that's a big pet peeve of mine when you are taking the first 4 songs, which is a third of the CD, to use them as singles because I've already heard them. And now it's like, okay, you're not giving me anything new or something to latch onto in those first 4. I could have just skipped those. And then the last 8 is like a crapshoot. I have no idea. At least for me, I like being able to have a latching on point to bring me back to something that I know can be good or bad. If they had spaced it out a little bit more, I think it would have worked. Because when you only have 8 other songs afterwards, you're basically going through a minefield. It can be great, but it also can be absolutely horrible, and you have nothing else to latch onto for safety before you get to the end of the album. And then also, Mirror Master as a closer is a little bit weird in this vibe for the rest of the album because so much of this album is beautiful and soft and subtle and slow, but this one feels a complete 180, which I don't know if it would have worked. I think going between these two vibes on the first one worked so well because it was balanced out a little bit more. There was these times of great energy and then these times of great stillness. But there's so much more stillness on here than energy that it just feels weird when you have an upbeat song at the end. The first time I was listening to this, I almost fell asleep, and then this came on. It's like, what the hell is going on? So I think the mixing of the tracks could have been a little bit better, or just like the order of it. Most of these songs are pretty personal. I've already talked about a couple of these, about love and finding simplicity in love, and that's a lot of what this album is. Songs like Superposition, songs like Simplify, songs like You and I, all those have that feel of finding love in somebody, whether it's fate, whether it's supposed to be, and finding simplicity and finding reasons to stay. Call Me Back is kind of more of that longing for somebody. Panoramic Girl kind of fits this pattern, but I like the idea of this, where it's daydreaming about someone that have seen before, but actually you've never encountered or talked to, but wanting to be with them just because of the idea of what they are. And a lot of these do talk about depression and dealing with your fears. So Oblivion is talking about facing our greatest fears and just like staring into that oblivion rather than having those fears destroy you. Brother's Keeper is talking about dealing with depression and hoping that others can be there for them. On the flip side, Darkest Shade of Blue, which is a beautiful short track, which again is one where this simplicity works because it's so short. This one is talking about being there for somebody when everything is falling apart. Glory is talking about the struggle of seeing ourselves versus how others see us, and kind of the same way Tightrope has that idea of trying to figure out the ideas of life and what we're supposed to be through not just our own ideas, but also what other people say, and the hypocrisies that, or the mismatches of ideas that happen because everyone goes through different things. And again, just going through life and knowing that some of these facts or these morals that people have told us about might not necessarily work in the real world. And then the last one, Mirror Master, the last track, and the title song of this album also talks about that idea of being the person that they want to see in the mirror, and making sure that you get to be that person, but also understanding that just what you see isn't necessarily always what is. The idea of we are only what we can see. Sometimes we only see the best in people without honestly seeing the struggles that they have or the dark sides. The only one that's kind of blah is Heat of the Summer in terms of lyrics. It's talking about being lazy in the summertime even though everything else is kind of chaotic. So overall, it's mostly about love or about self-reflection. And I think that works very well with the tone of this album. It's very pensive at times and calls for these reflective ideas. I just wish that it wasn't, I wish that there was a little bit more energy on some of these songs because it would have worked so well. I think it could have been as good as Home of the Strange, but it falls a little bit short just because some of these songs are a little bit too boring, and once you get so many of them together, it becomes a problem because you don't have enough forward momentum or forward energy to keep this going. If it was one full album of just very pensive, very simplistic, very slow, soft, subtle songs, I think that could have worked. But because you tried to shoe in some of these heavier and more energetic songs where he gets to use his full range, it leaves you wanting more of those. And honestly, those songs themselves that are heavier aren't necessarily that interesting. I've heard better singles for like Simplify and Mirror Master and Tightrope. I've heard better songs on the previous album. So all in all, if you're a Young the Giant fan, I think you would still like this album. Just going the idea that you're getting a lot more of these slower, subtle songs and not much of the energy. And if you're fine with that, take a listen. If you are someone who really likes those beautiful and simplistic songs that are a little bit droning at times, a little bit more atmospheric, go for it. Everyone else, I don't know if it's going to be for you, but at least check it out. At least check out the singles. I think that gives you an idea of what the sound is. And then from there, I would throw in You and I think that's beautiful. Tightrope is great. I like Oblivion as well. And honestly, from there, Brother's Keeper maybe, but other than that, it's to your discretion. So that is my time. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy this album or this video, give it a like. If you want to see more of my videos, of course, keep on watching. But the biggest thing that you can do is, of course, hit that subscribe button. If you've been watching and haven't been subscribed yet, what have you been waiting for? I put out great videos every week, and you're going to be missing them. Also, you'll be missing them if you don't click that bell so that you are notified about every single video that I put up. And then from there, comment on what you like or dislike about this album, as well as albums that you would like me to take a look at in the future. And hey, if you think other people will like this, share this with your friends. Simple. Anyways, I'll be back later this week with 2 RU-ins that are a little bit interesting. If you are someone who is tired of listening to the same cliched Christmas music, especially because there's no snow outside and it's been somewhat warm, these are going to be for you. These are going to be very out there albums. So, have fun. I will see you very shortly for another RU-in. This is the Music Fan signing out.